Welcome to the 156th broadcast of the T-ROH show. This is your host, Keith. Got some things I would like to show some everybody so that they can take a look at this claim that has been made. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I think it's important for everybody to see it. It says a claim has been filed against the U.S. Congress for the crime of slavery in all its forms. So we've got the document that's been put in here. This was put up there about 4 days ago. And the U.S. Congress has been served. Emails, linked, and faxes. It's been faxed. So they've been served. They've been served with this. I'm going to show you a little bit about the document and give you a little bit of history on some other things within the document so that everybody has a chance to take a look at the doc itself and where the standing is. That's what we want to know. All right, so slavery claim against the U.S. Congress and the Congress of the United States, because before 1933, it used to be called the Congress of the United States. They kind of went away from that a little bit. It says, the people for the United States of America hereby claim that the U.S. Congress created a legal box wherein the persons of the people for the United States of America have been placed in perpetual inhabitant status, evidenced by the fact that the citizen status cannot be obtained in any state or state. No one can go and take an oath or affirmation, which is basically what's required to become a citizen, to the state. They just don't do it. They just say, "Oh, do you have a social security number? Yeah, well then you're a U.S. citizen," and that's it. That's all they do. When that's absolutely not true, and the 14th Amendment does not make that happen. Okay, regardless of what people believe, it doesn't make that happen. So the Law of Nations, here's the recognition standing on this claim. It says the Law of Nations is as recognized by the United States. Wherein does it read? Section 8, to define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations. Each state or state is subject to the law of nations, and that's exactly correct. You are subject to the law of nations. You are not protected by any form of what you think is a federal constitution. You're not protected by that. It is basically you are subjected to that through the U.S. House of Representatives. So here's what it reads, and this is in chapter 19 of your native country, of our native country, the several things that relate to it. It says a whole of the country possessed by a nation and subject to its laws forms, as we have already said, its territory, and is the common country of all of the individuals of the nation. We have been obliged to anticipate the definition of the term native country, because our subject led us to treat of the love of our country, and that's what you're doing when you're treating with people, with other countries. You're basically taking what you love the most about your country, and then you're sharing it with them, whether it's products or whatever it is, tourism and all that. A virtue so excellent and so necessary in a state. Supposing then this definition already known, it remains that we should explain several things that have relation to this subject, the questions that naturally arise from it. The citizens are the members of the civil society. Keep that in mind. Bound to this society by certain duties and subject to its authority. They equally participate in its advantages. Okay, so that's basic there. The natives, or natural-born citizens, are those born in the country of parents who are citizens. As a society cannot exist and perpetuate itself otherwise than by the children of the citizens. Those children naturally follow the condition of their fathers and succeed to all their rights. The society is supposed to desire this in consequence of what it owes to its own preservation, and is presumed as a matter of course that each citizen on entering into society reserves to his children the right of becoming members of it. No, everybody's good with that, okay? The country of the fathers is therefore that of the children, and these become true citizens merely by their tacit consent. So everybody says, well, they become true citizens by their tacit consent. which means somebody in that family has a citizenship certificate from some time back in the 17 and 1800s. But guess what? No one does. Where is your father's grandfather's grandfather's grandfather's, where's his citizenship certificate that he got when he followed the naturalization to become a citizen of the United States, and he went to the court, which is the county court of common law, took his oath, and he had his citizenship paperwork, and that was supposed to be passed down from father to son, father to son, father to son. Never happened. So therefore, you can't say you're a citizen of the United States. It doesn't work. There is no certificate that says you are. A social security number and the Social Security Administration does not deal with nationality or citizenship. So this whole idea of, oh, you got a social security number, so therefore you're a U.S. citizen, doesn't fly. Okay, it just doesn't work. That means everyone has lied on their social security. Was it the oath? I guess not. It's not an oath they take. It's a it's a penalty of perjury. That's what I was looking for. So you sign this penalty of perjury. So basically, you lied. None of your family has any citizenship certificate anywhere. It's required from the beginning. You always have to go back to the original. It says, we will soon see whether on their coming to the years of discretion they may renounce their right and what they owe to the society in which they were born. I say that in order to be of the country, it is necessary that a person be born of a father who is a citizen. Okay, so if they say, well, what country were you born in? Say, well, I was born in the United States of America, or I was born in the state of Michigan, or I was born in the state of California. Those are all countries, by the way. They're states, independent states. So you could say that I was born in the state of Florida. That's your country. Okay, for if he is born there of a foreigner, it will be only his place of birth and not his country. So how many times are you asked, what's your place of birth? Oh, I was born in Florida. Okay. They didn't say what country you were born in. They said place of birth. That's right here, by the way. Place of birth. That's it. Okay. Now, the inhabitants, as distinguished from citizens, are foreigners who are permitted to settle and stay in the country, bound to the society by their residence. There you go, right there. No one ever, only residents have to have their driver's license because they're foreigners to that state. And that's called inhabitants. It means you're a foreigner. It means you're not a citizen of the state. And you can't be a citizen of the state and a citizen of the United States or a U.S. citizen, and not, in other words, you can't be a U.S. citizen and not a citizen of the state. So what they have you is they have you listed, which is all BS, by the way. They have you listed as a U.S. citizen, but not a citizen of any of the U.S. states. So you're not that. You're only a resident of those states, and you gain residency within 6 months. Okay, so they are subject to the laws of the state while they reside in it. So, calling somebody a sovereign citizen is a joke, by the way, because there are no citizens. Nobody has their citizen certificate. So you're foreigners to the states. That's slavery, man. It says they're obliged to defend it because it grants them protection, though they do not participate in all the rights of citizens. There you go. They enjoy only the advantages that which the law or customs give them. The perpetual inhabitants are those who have received a right of perpetual residence. There you go, permanent residence. You ever seen that? Anybody says, well, I'm a permanent resident. Well, then you're just a freaking perpetual inhabitant, which makes you a foreigner to the state. Okay? It says these are kind of citizens of an inferior order and are not united, are united to this society without participation in all of its advantages. Their children follow the condition of their fathers, and as the state is given to these the right of perpetual residence, their right passes to their posterity. There you go. It explains it right there, guys. You can't really get around this. No one can, argue that away. Oh, well, you guys are just U.S. citizens, so shut up. That doesn't work that way. Wherever this came up with, I got a social security number, doesn't mean that you're a U.S. citizen unless you're just a liar, and that's fine. If you're going to do the penalty of perjury thing, saying you're a U.S. citizen, fine. You want to lie to them, fine, whatever. Slaves lie. That's how it works. The world can see that this part of the law of nations deals with the terms that the U.S. Congress uses every day to identify those that are born within the states of the Union. They call them residents. Oh, there's a residence there. Okay, and that's why you have an electoral college that votes them in. The votes in everybody, not will vote in a president, but well, you know what I mean. It's not your vote really doesn't mean much. There is a distinction between a citizen and a resident wherein both cannot exist at the same time, as distinguished from citizens. It's right here. So you can't say that we lied there. That's just right there. This is a copy and paste right out of the Law of Nations, the same Law of Nations that they were discussing. Okay, in Section 8. The only status offered at this point in time is a resident of a state or state. There's no such thing as a U.S. citizen certificate to prove anyone is a U.S. citizen. So basically, the U.S. is made up of 330 million liars because they all sign penalties of perjury and crap for Social Security numbers. So basically, all of you are liars because there's no freaking citizen certificate or proving that your forefather was one. So anyone can only assume that there's no such status as a U.S. citizen because there was no social compact that created it. So did anybody sign the social compact that created the Constitution? Nope, nobody's seen that. Representatives signing a Constitution doesn't ratify it. The people that had the social compact that elected the representatives can ratify it, but you have to have the social compact with it. And people don't get that. An inhabitant is a foreigner and perpetually remains a resident of any state or state. Therefore, nothing more than stateless. The term is used to describe a slave. That's exactly right. Stateless and slave are the same things. They're synonymous. Nothing more than property that is in need of permission to travel or go to the store. How many people can get in a car and go to the store without permission? How many can do that? Oh, no hands are going to come up. Guaranteed. Nobody's going to see it. No hands are going to be raised because you all are required to have a driver's license. Otherwise, they throw you in the pokey. That means you're a slave, guys. This is not your country, not your land, not anything. That's how it works. It's what we're trying to tell them here. Okay, property ownership is non-existent within the U.S. Congress because all the property is owned by the Northern Trust Corporation, operated by lawyers. So the slaves have no right to own property. That's exactly right. I'm going to show you some other things that you're going to be a little surprised about here in a minute. A number of human beings assembled and signed a social compact and formed a working government to solve the aforementioned problems caused by the indifference of the U.S. Congress. The government of the United States of America is bombarded with petty little claims by lawyers over and over, thereby sending out the Bar Association's private police force for no other reason than to annoy. And they do this with us all the time. They're constantly screwing around with us. Lawyers do it, cops do it. They'll just keep doing it, just to pester you. That's all they're doing. And they're ignorant or stupid or whatever they are. It's just whatever they do. Judges remain incompetent because none of them have read the Law of Nations, so they're all basically incompetent. All attempt to fill their own pockets on a daily basis, where an honest judge is very rare and has not yet been found within the U.S. Congress. You guys haven't appointed one honest judge ever. They don't know anything about law. They don't know shit. Okay. The U.S. Congress never functioned as a form of a republic, and this government fully expects that this claim will go unanswered because it is a claim from property in its eyes and not human beings. They've always had slaves. In other words, During the time between the Revolutionary War and 1789, there was no slavery in any of the states. It was the U.S. that brought it back. Y'all got to get that. It was abolished under the Articles of Confederation. The U.S. Congress lives lavishly off its slaves and sends its slaves to die in wars every day. And they do. They're sitting over there in Afghanistan, basically taking care of the poppy fields over there for the heroin drug dealers. It creates new killing machines on a monthly basis, all paid for by the labor of its slaves. The practice of communist ideology of the U.S. Congress is self-evident. The U.S. Congress finds ways every day to take more and more privileges away from what it sees as its property. That's why they're trying to take away your guns and all that fun stuff. They got to kill you off, thin the herd. That's why they keep saying, oh, the planet is going to die if we have all these people on the planet. What they're worried about is they're worried about the slaves rebelling. So they got to cut that number down. That's what's really going on from from the slave master point of view. The people for the United States of America hereby lodge this claim into the international record against the U.S. Congress for the crime of slavery in all its forms. Okay, and this was sent. Now we're going to show you some things on how they do this. They like to hide this crap under an enormous amount of terms that make people believe that they're actually talking about them. And that actually is funny. Here's one of the things I was going to show you when it comes to residence. This is the Florida thing. It says, I live in New York. If I buy a second home in Florida, can I count my Florida as my residence for state tax purposes? And the answer is maybe. Claiming the Sunshine State as your permanent residence, see, that's where it is, means you're a resident of that state. Doesn't mean you're a citizen. Can save you a lot of money. Florida has no state income tax and all this kind of crap. State laws vary, but in general, you need to be able to prove you intend to make a low state your permanent residence. They're trying to make it permanent home. They're trying to make it sound like a resident is a residence, meaning where you live, but basically you're a resident of the state. And they'll always say that, this many residents and that many residents. And if you go back to the Law of Nations, it shows you that residence is an inhabitant. It's not a citizen. They should be referring to as citizens, but there's no permanent allegiance. Okay, so you have a problem here. It says here, as the Department of State occasionally receives requests for certificates of non-citizen national status pursuant to Section blah in both the Immigration Nationality Act. And this is very confusing for people because they read it and they go, oh, well, that's what it's defined as. All right. As defined in INA, that's immigration naturalization. All U.S. citizens are U.S. nationals, but only a relatively small number of persons acquire U.S. nationality without becoming U.S. citizens. Okay. How do you become a U.S. citizen? Well, it says here, defines the term national as a person owing permanent allegiance to a state. Okay, well, that's true, but where's your oath and affirmation to that state? That's how you have, it's called an oath of fidelity. Okay, where's your oath and affirmation to that? They're saying that all U.S. citizens are U.S. nationals, but they say that defines the term national as a person owing permanent allegiance to a state. That means that you got to have right here in Section 1 an oath and affirmation somewhere. That's permanent allegiance. It's not a Social Security card, and it's not a penalty of perjury statement saying that you're a U.S. citizen. That's not an oath of allegiance. You have to have a certificate that states that that's what you did. You took your oath. Police officers have that. Judges have that. State legislatures have an oath of permanent allegiance. But why don't you? It's because you're not. It's because you're a foreigner, an inhabitant, and have a residence. Okay? Now it says here, INA proves the term national of the United States includes all U.S. citizens as well as persons who, though not citizens of the United States, owe permanent allegiance to the United States, non-citizen national. Okay? Great, wonderful. But still, where's your oath and affirmation for that? You don't have one. And if your forefather never did, and you don't have one from 1790 till today, and no one in your family has a certificate, which you receive if you take an oath and affirmation in a court of common law on a county level, go read it. Go read your immigration laws or policies, I guess now from back then. Then kind of tells you what's going on, right? That nobody's a U.S. citizen and nobody's a citizen of the state, and they're all claiming to be residents of the states. Where's your residence? They always do that. Where's your citizen card? Where's your citizen certificate of the state? You don't have one. We went around and asked about 4 different states. We went local, excuse me, local courts. We went to state legislatures. Nobody would give you an oath to the state. You couldn't become a citizen of the state under oath. It means you have to have a permanent allegiance, right? And you don't have one, so you're a resident. And that defines you as an inhabitant, not a citizen. That's slavery, folks. They're not allowing it. I'll tell you actually who's not allowing this. There's an organization. Let me go ahead and close this and close this one. It's called a Council of State Governments. It's a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization in the United States that serves all 3 branches of state government. Founded in 1933. Well, there you go. By Colorado State Senator H.W. Toll. Now, the weird part about this is and here this guy comes up again. Hold on one second. This H.W. or Henry, W. Toll. And here's the funny part. Okay. I went in and looked around. NAAG. That's the National Association of Attorneys General. And these are the guys that the National Association of Attorney General was founded in 1907. And these guys do their thing, they come around. But wait a minute, I think it's the wrong one. Here it is. Yeah, it is. Okay, it's wrong. Here's the Council of State Governments. Oh, there it is. National Association of Attorney Generals. Okay, at the wrong page. All right. So basically, it says when former Colorado State Senator Henry Toll founded CSG in 1933, envisioned an organization that would facilitate greater interstate cooperation. No, it was to keep control of the residents. See, the residents are starting to they get scared because residents foreigners all have guns, and they're getting ready to, pounce on these guys. And so that's why they're freaking out with the Civil War speak. Okay. They haven't planned for that, so they don't know what to do with it. It says Senator Henry Toll. All right. Now, here's the other about. They have core values. They always have core values, every time. I got an executive committee. All right. And these guys, what they do is National Association of Attorneys serves as a national forum for attorneys general and their staff to collaboratively and effectively address issues important to their work and provides resources to support the work of offices of attorneys general protecting the rule of law and the United States Constitution. Okay. And they say that they're popularly elected by who? Residents? Foreigners? They're not elected at all because foreigners can't, elect. They don't care about that. Foreigners are not anything really. It's just you have them. Those councils are basically electing their own. Is what I'm trying to tell you. It's just, All right. Here we go again. I'm looking at this again on this other deal. All right, so you got 1925 Henry Wolcott Toll, and then the Colorado State Senator created the American Legislatures Association and forerunner of to CSG, which provided legislators with information and opportunities to connect. Toll believed interstate cooperation was imperative for states to maintain control over inherent state issues. CSG is the only national organization that serves all three branches of state government. Was created in 1933. Probably 12 of 15 of us sat around a table in a small room. Toll recalled 25 years later, the Council of State Governments and never have had never been heard of before that day. It's about 5 years after CSG was conceived, a new building in Chicago became a council's central home. And there you go, 1967, CSG and the Commonwealth of Kentucky entered into an agreement that provided CSG with a headquarters building in Lexington, Kentucky. The building was dedicated in 1969. 1993, the state financed the construction of a second building to facilitate council's continued growth. Okay, why is that so interesting? Okay, the reason why that is so interesting is because CSG, that organization, was created under the control of the Ku Klux Klan. I went in and found some stuff that was interesting. There's some KKK stuff here and here. Klan marchers in the 17th Street of Denver, Colorado, because Toll was from Denver. And it said here, it says 4 Republican senators stated that they would not abide by certain decisions of majority leaders and walked out of the caucus. These men were Henry Toll, same guy that created CSG, David Elliott, Frank Kelly, and Lewis A. Puffer. An effort to, 2 of them was made by an appointing Puffer chairman of the Finance Committee and Elliott chairman of the State Affairs and Public Lands Committee. Walter W. King and John P. Dickinson, 2 other dissatisfied senators about to join the above-mentioned insurgents, were given chairmanships of the ruling banking and reapportionment committees. There you go. He was an insurgent. All these guys. Governor Clarence J. Morley, Klan-inspired program was thwarted by several courageous legislators. He tried to, but actually they didn't. They actually changed it. They actually passed it. The only composed the Republicans elected from a Klan-controlled party. It says the House overwhelmingly composed of Republicans elected from the Klan-controlled party. Get it? It's right there. Continued to cooperate fully with the administration. The Senate rift was not the first felt. So we're looking at a organization that deals with all the attorneys general of the country, an association that was controlled under the Klan control, Klan-controlled party. Continued to cooperate fully with the administration. The Senate rift was not the first felt. During the long session, which lasted into the late evening of January 21st, the Assembly saw to it that the legislation desired by the governor was introduced before the midnight deadline designated by law. The majority of the so-called administration bills were introduced in the House. 2 bills especially pleasing to the Ku Klux Klan were House forbidding the sale of liquor for sacramental use and repealing the civil rights laws, which would allow the discrimination against Negroes. An additional below aimed at Catholics came to the form of a bill that would stop children in public institutions from attending sectarian schools, some of which were run by the church. Okay, now that organization is that organization that you just saw. It still will not let you have what? A freaking citizenship within a state, and won't give you a U.S. citizen certificate so you can pass that on to your children. They just say, become a resident, pay your taxes, you stupid foreigner. Because in biblical law, if you're considered a foreigner of your country, or of a country that you reside in, you have to pay taxes there. That's how it is. Okay, so this was a fight between them and the Catholics and all that. Ku Klux Klan right here was forbidding the sale of liquor from Sacramento youths right there and repealing the civil rights laws. Now they said that there was there was a lot of there wasn't any civil rights laws back then, um, but there actually were. There were civil rights laws, but they didn't mention those, which would allow the discrimination against Negroes. See, they couldn't discriminate against them back then, guys. So in the '60s was not the first time that civil rights laws were there. Okay, it should not be thought that all bills introduced were concerned with the Klan issues are detrimental to the rights of Colorado citizens. An examination of the House and Senate journals shows that many were designed to improve relations between labor and management, help the farming, livestock, and dairy industries, encourage conservation of natural resources, and the like. One bill introduced into the House eliminated primary elections entirely and permitted the convention form of party rule. Later, it would pass a legislature to be vetoed by Governor Morley because through the primary, according to one observer, Dr. John Galen Locke became a political boss of Colorado. There was some crap going on, man. It says this gave the Klan control of the Republican Party. So why is it that they came out and said the Republican Party was never a part of the Klan, when in fact they were controlled by them? And they're still running organizations today. So this whole idea that the Republican Party was this champion of getting rid of slavery is BS, because they were controlled by the Klan. Right here. Outside the state legislature, Catholics were bringing about every kind of pressure in order to kill the bill prohibiting the use of wines for sacramental purposes. In an editorial, the Denver Catholic Register was reprinted. So it's the same thing over and over again, folks. It's just another form of slavery that people don't understand. And this is what we mean by slavery in all its forms. And the U.S. Congress is guilty of it, regardless. They won't allow state citizens, and that's not right. They're just using people and taxing them and doing all this other kinds. There's always new taxes coming out every day, and it's friggin' horrible. By the way, it's an horrible existence that you never know what the laws are going to be, because they change them on a daily basis. And now you understand why there's always this struggle between the both of them, that they're constantly going back and forth, and they're saying it's a struggle between good and evil, but actually they're both the same. Their political system's horrible. And there's no citizens to stop it. Have you noticed that they say, oh, that's a runaway government? No, it's not. It's not. It was never yours. You're foreign to it. Actually, you're not even subject to it. According to the law of nations, if you live in that society, they say you're subject to the state laws. However, they don't offer that. So it's one of the other. I believe that you're listed as a slave. That's just the way I look at it when it comes to residents, because you're an inhabitant and you're stateless. And I think we've got this case. It's down. There's nothing you can do. What I would do if I were anyone is, if you're sick and tired of this and they won't allow you to become a state citizen, you can't take an oath or affirmation or anything like that as a state citizen. You're a foreigner to that state. You're a resident and basically an inhabitant, foreigner to that as distinguished from citizens. So therefore, you have no vote. You have nothing. You're stateless. You're foreign to it. Sue for slavery. You got me for you're enforcing and imposing slavery on me. I'm not a citizen. You won't allow me to be a citizen. You won't even offer oaths or affirmations for me to be a citizen. There are no citizen courts. They're all resident courts. So there's a big difference between a citizen court and a resident court. that's listed as an inhabitant and a foreigner as distinguished from a citizen. There's no citizen courts at all. Where is the citizens voting booth? You have a resident voting booth, but those don't matter. Because it's the same freaking people that go into office all the time. I've seen clerks in office for 40 years, some of them up to 50 years. The same woman in office. That tells you something right there. You're telling me that no one could beat that woman in 40 or 50 years of being in office? It tells you something. Your vote doesn't matter. It's all a scam. It's a facade. You're not citizens. Where's your citizen certificate for the state of Florida, for the state of California, state of Colorado, state of Michigan? Where is it? They don't have one. You're a permanent resident, which is passed down to your children. Oh, we got to have a birth certificate on you. You're a permanent resident. Got to have a birth certificate. You're not a citizen. You don't have the same rights as citizens do. So we got to keep track of your ass, which means we got to put in all these driver's license agreements and compact agreements and residency agreements so that when you go from one state to another, your residency changes within 6 months due to a compact that was set up for you. So here's my question off the top of my head before we end this broadcast, the 156th broadcast of the T-ROH Show. How many lawyers are citizens or have citizen certificates? That I'd like to know. Right after we put this out, folks, the next day, there was a Republican claiming to be a citizen. I don't remember the name. I'm sorry. It was just something that I was reading, and then I thought about it later on. I go, wait a minute, someone right the day, and I was talking about the day or the day after that we faxed this and we emailed this to the U.S. Congress. One of these congressmen were claiming to be a citizen openly. Well, I'm a citizen. Blah 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 blah. Really? Where's your oath of fidelity, permanent allegiance to that state? You don't have one. If you don't have that, you don't have anything. Then people ask us. They always ask us this. They say, "Well, you have all these other people that take these oaths of office." Okay, and an oath of office is done by citizens. Well, you have to have a citizen certificate first in order to qualify for that office, because it only applies to citizens. So you see how things are messed up? They're so messed up that we're trying to fix it, and then we get these little petty claims from little petty lawyers just to annoy you, piss you off, take up your time, screw with you. So that's what pushed this claim against the U.S. Congress, and to basically state, look, in today's perception, you guys can sign crap, and all of your network will abide by it. So we're telling you right now that we're not putting up with this anymore, and we're going to start because you guys lecture everybody across the world, all these other countries, about human rights and everything else. Well, every one of those countries are going to be getting a copy of this as soon as we can get it out. And if you guys don't block our emails like you have been doing in the past, I guess when we go overseas, in the past, I'd say 5 years, been blocking our emails from getting over there. And we're getting it out there. We're going to do our best to get it out there. If anybody else can email this stuff over, would be great. To let the other countries understand that there are no U.S. citizens, that the U.S. House of Representatives or U.S. Congress has been lying their ass off to the rest of the world, and they're not champions of freedom, and they're not what they say they are. Because no one in this country, it is poorly managed, horribly managed. It is worse than, I think, right now than any communist country. You can't even pray in the schools anymore. Haven't been able to do that for the last 30 or 40 years. And they've been slowly and systematically wiping out any churches, just getting rid of them as fast as they can. And these are the things that are going on. Then they have all this sexualization in schools, which we got more stuff coming out about that and showing people what's going on. So, what do you do? What do you do with this? You sue them, you expose it, you claim against them, and let everybody know the truth. So maybe they'll either change it or they go out of business. One of the two. Because you can't operate with just slaves all the time and lying constantly. You eventually, natural law kicks in and it takes you down. Natural law takes you down. Nothing else does. And the funny part about this, and this is something I've always wanted to say, you have a bunch of deep staters call themselves Democrats, but we know they're communists, trying to come in and take over offices. What do those people think that we're going to do or anybody else is going to do? Why would we listen to anything that you have to say? Why is anybody going to listen to anything you have to say? Just because you hold the office doesn't mean those offices are predicated on people's cooperation. Those offices are bullshit. They always have been. But the only thing that that gives the people the perception of reality is that they listen to them. People listen to it and they obey it. But once that obedience is gone, those offices aren't worth a shit. So whatever's going on over there, you guys are trying to take out Trump or you're trying to take out this or take out that. Nobody's going to listen to you after all that happens. As you've lied here and lied there, nobody's going to listen to you. Nobody's going to cooperate with you. You don't have shit. You're going to be sitting there all by yourself. And we've always said this in the beginning of all this. If you don't have anybody to fix your air conditioner and your air conditioner is broke, you're going to be in a one hot ass office. If people won't cook your food anymore, you're going to have to go cook it yourself. If people won't do the maintenance on your airplane ain't getting off the ground. The power of the office is only with that which people give it. Give to it, not because it's there on its own. It's you have cooperation with people. So once all these things are exposed, folks, there's your power right there. You're a permanent resident. Anytime any judge, any lawyer, any cop comes up and screws with you, go after their ass for slavery because we got the proof right there. You got me as a slave. And I'm going to charge you, I'm going to accuse you of slavery. Expose that crap. Because basically when it comes down to, you take all this stuff away, you're both human beings. And the human spirit comes in, and the spirit that comes from the Holy Spirit, the spirit that's within you, that comes out and says, I'm not going to be your slave anymore. I'm done being your slave. You want to treat me equally? No problem. You'll get cooperation from me, but you're going to treat me like a slave? No. It really comes down to that. If you don't, you could be a president of the universe, okay? But if people aren't working on your airplane so you can fly to another country or fueling it, they just say, no, screw you. I ain't doing nothing. I'm going to sit back and watch you. Okay, Mr. President Man, what you going to do now? We're going to write you little executive orders. You going to sign a little paperwork and stuff like that? If nobody's cooperating with you, you don't have shit. And that's the way it works. If all the soldiers said, screw you, man. Screw you, old man. I'm going to stuff a friggin' stars up your butt. Go away. He can't do anything. He shoots one of them, he's got 50 guns right on him. He can't do a thing. He's got no power whatsoever. He only has the power of those people that respect the office and respect him or her, regardless. And that's the way it works. Okay, folks? So this is why. This is the power that you have. It's called being a human being, having a Holy Spirit in you. It's this is the power you have to basically state, look, I'm not a slave. If you can't give me a citizen status, I'm not cooperating anymore. You can force all you want, but you're going to get tired after a while. You're going to get tired of picking me up. You're going to get tired of dragging me. You're going to get tired of doing this and tired of doing that. You're going to get tired of all of it until you get the idea. And I've seen this. You get the idea that we're equal. You're not asking for more rights than them. You're asking for equal rights. And I've seen them. I've seen cops, man. Whoa. They turn around and you start saying, equal rights to you. You do what I tell you to do. You know, they go off. They really think that you're inferior, that you're animals. Most of them do. They don't have respect for people at all. The politicians think you're trash and stupid. They have this idea in their head that they're not, that you're not equal. So keep that in mind. And the only way this is going to change is when you fight for equality. Thanks for listening to the 156th broadcast of the T-ROH Show. I hope that you learned something today. And we will see you next week.